welcome to another episode of Top of the Funnel, where content conversations begin. Today's episode is slightly different. We're focusing on one specific channel and the role of content within it, and that channel is email. We are all struggling as marketers with email marketing, trying to make the most of it, trying to find space in the inbox of our customers, and trying to build a relationship with them through emails. Today's expert is Tanishq Juneja, and he is the global product marketing head at Netcore, and he is the email guy, and that's what he calls himself, and that's what we believe he is too. Today's episode will be all about email marketing. Consider this a little masterclass in establishing certain ground rules if you're a business or you're a marketer looking to really take your email marketing to the next level. This masterclass will be really helpful. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi Tanishq, welcome to Top of the Funnel. Hi Tanishq, thank you so much for taking out the time to have this conversation with us.
Hi, Natasha. It's superb to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So we have a bunch of questions for you, and as you know, the focus of these conversations is more around content, but we'd love for this to be like a masterclass in email marketing with some emphasis around how content marketers can leverage email marketing to the best of their abilities. So I'll start with my first question, which is very content focused, and that is how has the use of content in emails evolved in the last few years, and what are some trends that are here to stay? I know you're like this email marketing expert, and you've seen the growth of email marketing, so you can walk us through that evolution, and also what do you think is going to stay? There's things that are constantly changing, so over to you. Yeah.
So, Natasha, if you remember your childhood days and you receiving an email, let's assume if it is your birthday and you receive 10, 20 emails on your birthday saying happy birthday, Natasha, you would feel amazing. I mean, 10 years back or 15 years back, you would feel that it is a Natasha week sort of thing, right? But today that is not there. Obviously, that's the evolution of email marketing. Right from back in the days, brands used to admire batch and blast, so they would send out emails. And consumer, like we are both, right? We are marketers in the room and we are consumers in the room. So we would feel amazing receiving those emails. But today we don't feel as amazing receiving those emails. So we know that it is not just me receiving that email, it is millions of people receiving those emails.
Yeah.
I remember back in the days when I was in school and my dad was worried about me doing anything but wasting my life. And I used to go and show him Naukri.com's email that, hey, see, I already have a job in place. So they're inviting me for interviews. And maybe I was graduating back then and things like that. So, and that is my first encounter with email marketing. Back then, as a consumer, I didn't even know this is called email marketing, right? So it has evolved and come a very, very long way. So when Facebook started, when Naukri started, or when many of these large brands who started sending emails, and this is like a couple of decades back, these guys, they started by sending spams. So we didn't know back then what is spam. So every email we received, we just loved it. As long as it has our name in the subject line, we used to be like, it's like a love letter you have received from a brand, and you're like self-motivated and self-loved that, oh, I have got an email today. Someone is worried and sending me an email. And things have moved forward. Now we know that if there is a wish coming from Narendra Modi ji, it's not just us. There are so many users who are getting that wish, right? So we have now accepted the fact and we have grown as a consumer that now it is not about someone reaching out and sending you one email at a time. It is like billions of emails being sent, and there is a tech for it. There is a technology for it. And this whole space is called email marketing. So that is, I mean, I'm giving you both the perspective since we are also in consumer, we are also marketers ourselves. So that is how the email marketing evolution has happened. So brands have looked at graduating from batch and blast. So they were doing a lot of things. They would just send out emails to now getting more curious that, hey, email is great. We have a lot of email addresses. We can send out a lot of conversations. can we do some innovations in the email along the way? So there are 2 points. One is on the content side innovations, and second is on the data side. So we generally do not like people who purchase emails or purchase email addresses and then send out an email, and then you just send out emails, right? So that has improved in our country. So people no more are buying email lists, at least not at least openly, and they are now looking at subscription forms on the website. Like if you go to any e-commerce website, there is a subscription form. You are trying to persuade a user that, okay, you come and subscribe, give me your email address, and then we'll send out an email, rather than buying email addresses, getting an email list, renting an email list, and sending out emails. So that has improved drastically. So there is something. So there are two kind of list subscription. One is single opt-in, and second is double opt-in, and third is obviously the purchase data thing, which we would say big no to everyone, because today reputation and customer experience starts from day one of your startup, right? You don't want to get associated with you being a spammer. So single opt-in basically is when, let's suppose I take natasha@gmail.com, your email address, and go and give it to Myntra, and Myntra starts sending you email thinking it's Natasha. That is single opt-in. And double opt-in is when I go and give your email address, but they send you a confirmation email saying, hi Natasha, we received your request. Do you want to confirm this request being Natasha? And you will not confirm it because you are not the person who is given. So that is the evolution on the data side or subscription side, and people are trying to build that list. On the content side, I have seen that people started with very text kind of email, then image heavy emails. Like the email would have nothing but image and nothing else, right? So now, and then people started doing text, HTML, and image as a combination. And then people graduated to videos and GIFs. And then people graduated to more interactive kind of emails. There are new technologies in place. ESPs are, mailbox providers like Yahoo, Gmail, they themselves want a lot of their users to not leave the mailbox. And hence they are trying to clean it. They are trying to offer interactive ways that you can engage with the users. And there are tech pieces like Bimmy and AMP. So there are these two new things which have came in email marketing space in last couple of years, wherein you can do a lot of interaction over emails. So let me give you an example how it happens. So basically, you as a user do not want to leave your mailbox and go to a different website, right? But today, when you go and see an email, you click on it, you go to a website to go and transact. AMP as a technology, it is accelerated mobile pages. So it's basically AMP elements are there in the email. And if let's suppose you want to go and fill a survey, you can go and do it on the email. If you want to go and browse products, you can go and do it on the email. But so there are a lot of action which earlier you had to go to a landing page and do. Google, so AMP is associated with Google. It is also enabled in Yahoo and mail.ru, some of these mailboxes. But essentially what Google is trying to say is that, hey, email is your space. There is a lot you can do over emails and you can keep engaging with them. So obviously video and GIFs, they require JavaScript. So that came in picture long back, and people started sending out emails which were interactive. There were GIFs, there were videos. And now this is actual interactions where you can submit information or forms, or you can select, or you can say, yes, I would board the flight, etc. All of that on those emails. And that is enabled through AMP, which is an amazing piece. It is still catching up in the market. There is a lot of tech behind AMP, but that is one thing which I've seen in content moving forward. There is one interesting conversation. There's one very interesting trend which I am seeing in the last 2 years, especially right after pandemic. Marketers would use email as a channel to just go and sell. Today, and right after pandemic, the conversions stopped, right? So people were not buying, they were not aware. There was a drastic shift in the landscape, and people were worried. So marketers, and especially with a lot of marketers, I saw this change, that their focus became conversations instead of conversion. So it was like a grand shift from conversion to conversations. I want to have more conversation with Natasha. I want to know more about her as a brand so that I can be more empathetic at the right time. I can build connection with her rather than getting her transaction, because a lifetime value of a user is quite high, right? If you stay with me as a user, I know the kind of business you can give me. So brands started paying a lot of attention to empathy, conversations, building the right kind of connection with the users. So all of that is a big change that happened in last 2 years. So I would say what I want to send versus what you want to get is the shift, right? Now what you want to receive is my high priority than what I want to send.
Now, that's a great way of summarizing it, I think. And also, I never realized, but now when you're talking about it, that whole empathy piece, so many brands are actually, you're right, they're sending very content heavy emails which are not even talking about their products, have no CTA as such. I noticed Zomato has started sending a newsletter now, which is all about foodie facts and things like that. So yeah, I mean, that's so true. I had never even thought of it. So it's a great shift, I think. Now, on that same note, what are some, and we love this term growth hacks and hacks in general, right? So, what are some 3 to 4 growth hacks, for businesses that are looking to scale email marketing as a channel and, looking to build their subscriber base?
Awesome. That's an amazing question, Natasha. I think today email is not a standalone channel. It's part of the core marketing mix. It does not sit at the periphery. It sits inside your whole marketing strategy. And there is a lot of ways brands can actually leverage email. In fact, I know that there are brands for whom email has become a primary channel because they want to get a lot of engagement, a lot of conversations built, and then conversion is an outcome of all of these strategies. So let me share some of the top things come to my mind. One is that in case you want to scale your email marketing efforts, make sure that you have a very persuasive form on the website, right? So, for example, there are thousands of people coming to your site. How many of them actually come and subscribe to your newsletters or subscribe to your offers? Are they able to relate to the message on the widget or on the form, subscription form, right? If you just say that, hey, subscribe to receive some newsletters, then people are not going to really pay attention. I see a lot of brands innovating that persuasive form, like a lot of brands come and say, scratch and win. I mean, they scratch, then they put their email IDs and then they get discount vouchers. So one of the important growth hacks is that you can do a lot of innovation with the traffic coming on the website and the form. I also remember telling brands that if I come to your site and I'm unable to find your form on the website or the subscription form on the website in less than 5 seconds, then you are losing out a lot of traffic, right? Some brands, they do not really put or give that much attention span to that subscription form. In fact, it is very important. Not everyone will come and create an account with you. You need to get their email IDs for sending them something, right? It's okay if they don't buy. At least you'll start building the connection with them. So that is, I think, first very important growth hack. Second important growth hack I would say is how do you create your subject lines? How do you create your content, right? So let's take this for an example. Brands, they spend maybe a week of their time in creating a great content, but only 1 minute they would spend to create a subject line, or maybe a few minutes to create a subject line. Now, content is overall a very important thing in email, and your subject line is like a teaser, right? So you create a great template, great content inside, but if your subject line is a put off, then you have lost a lot of important people who are going to transact with you, a lot of important subscribers. So how do you create great subject lines? So there is something called as value and a cost model. So this is very important for people to remember that we give our information only at places where there is more value given to us. So for example, today you would not exchange. So let's suppose we both didn't know each other. You would not give me your mobile number, you will not give me your email address. But the moment you know who Tanishq is, or the moment I know who Natasha is, the exchange of information becomes a lot easier. So when you don't know me, there is a mental cost that I don't want to give my information. My information is very private, or and today our identities are nothing but email IDs and mobile numbers at the end of the day. So you don't want to exchange those things. But the moment you see value in that exchange, you start giving the email ID, mobile numbers. For example, at how many forms on website have you gone and told your salary or designation? None, almost none, right? But and you, if an e-commerce company asks you what is your salary, you will not reveal it because you're not seeing any value coming out of them. In fact, there is more mental cost. You're just wondering why they want to collect my salary. The moment you go to a credit card website and you want to get the best of the credit cards, like the most platinum credit card, they will ask you your salary because they want to give you a limit on the credit card. You are happy to give that information. In fact, you would say my salary is 2x or 3x so that I get a better limit, right? So it's a mental cost versus value model. So if you are building a subject line, think about 2 or 3 problem areas or mental cost that will stop your subscribers from opening that subject line. Let's suppose if you are planning to send out a loan campaign, then higher interest rate is one problem. Flexible EMIs is another problem. So you will start putting down these problem statements, and then you'll start building subject lines which addresses each of these. Like you can say we offer the lowest interest rate in 2021. Now that suddenly addresses a segment of customers who have mental cost of higher loan interest rate, right? So what I would say is that this model allows you to think of the pain areas, put them down, and then you say that which are the top 2 or top 3 problem areas because you want to reach out to a higher, better segment, and then create subject lines, and then do a split A/B testing, which works. That way you are able to. So this is the second important growth hack I would say. Spend a good time on subject lines. They're important. They're not. I mean, don't spend 2 minutes or 1/10 of your time of the campaign on subject lines. Third is, which I said in my previous conversation also, build meaningful conversations and not forceful sale. So we see that the brands who have leveraged conversations, empathy, building brand connection with users in last 2 years, they are now reaping the benefits of it. So now you are able to remember Zomato's health tips, or you are able to remember Ease My Trips. How do you actually plan the great journey, etc. So there are so many things which brands have done in the last 2 years to educate users, to stay connected with users. Otherwise, they could actually just stop sending emails because there is no transaction happening. But they chose that I would keep communicating with my user. In fact, this is a good time to know my user much better. And we as users, our lives also went upside down, right? We didn't know, this is an unknown territory. This is unknown something happening. So brands have done a lot of good campaigns. In fact, we can discuss some of those campaigns later on, but they have done so many great campaigns that how they can give comfort and feeling of safety to their users. So that I would say is the third important growth hack, that start building relationships. Look at building relationships. Don't look at having a tactical sales sort of a thing. And never buy an email list. I mean, that is my point at everything you ask. Never buy an email list. As long as you think that you can scale by buying an email list, you are actually going to fall into a trap where you will lose all your reputation you have built. All your emails would start landing in spam. So it's not a growth hack, but I would recommend that never ever buy an email list. And I would now also give you a bonus growth hack, Natasha. Imagine this: you're sending out an email, and every call to action button in the email is an opportunity to do data enrichment. So not many brands have done this, and I'll give you an example. We tried this with Lenskart long back. So, and in fact, this can happen on website form also. So there are 4 fields on, let's suppose a website: name of the person, the gender of the person, the date of birth, and submit button, right? So there are 4 things I have to click. So I have to click the name, I have to click the gender, I have to put date of birth, then I have to submit the button. So what we did is, instead of saying all of this, you say name of the person, date of birth, and in the submission, there are 2 CTAs which shows the gender. So I have to fill one less information, and I can just click and say, if I'm male, I would click on the male submit button. If I'm female, I click on the female submit button. And this way I'm able to capture more details of the user. So I personally think that every call to action button is hugely important if you can innovate it, right? If you can send out an email which has, let's suppose, people who want to shop certain kind of products. So you put a CTA which has an icon which has certain kind of products, and you can put 2-3 icons. Then by by knowing that what people are clicking more, you know that what kind of audience is interested in what kind of product, and you can start building data enrichment or data about them. The more you know about your customers, the better conversations and relationships you'll be able to build. So that's one growth hack.
So on that same note, when you speak about knowing more about the customer and generating those conversations, now they sound like very good ideas, right? But when it comes to tracking those metrics, that's my next question for you. That, what are those key metrics that businesses need to track, and especially in this conversation sort of content area where things can get little, it's not very transactional. So what is it that we need to see? And also you mentioned that, these brands reap the benefits over a period of 2 years, right? So again, so what are those metrics that these, brands in general should be looking at, to make sure that their email marketing is going somewhere and it is reaping the results that they want to,
Sure.
set out.
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
So I would say that for most businesses which are online, you have to look at the user journey. So you have certain business goals, certain revenue goals, and email marketing is going to contribute to that business goals in some or the other way. Where does email start? So email starts right at the place when you start subscribing on the website. So right, so there is a welcome email program. The metrics to track your welcome email program is very different than when you are sending out only promotional email campaigns, right? And each of these are nothing but user journeys or stages at which the user could be in the buying cycle. So they would come and subscribe, they would browse, they would never purchase, they'll still browse and they would leave. Versus someone subscribes, they would browse, they would buy, they would browse, they would buy, they would become a loyalty program guys, and they would, they would become your loyalty guys, and then they would also recommend you. They become sort of a loyal customers for you, and they are there with you for a very long time, and then they would unsubscribe, right? So it's a different kind of user journeys, and email, and I call these journeys as moments. And at each moment, your email can persuade them, can engage with them, can build a different kind of a bond. So that is how important that email conversation is. And that way, email is not like SMS, it's a small text you can't see. It's a visually appealing channel, right? So brands can carve out moments of each of these stages and then go and plan an email campaign or series of emails at each stage to change the user stages and graduate the user from one stage to another. Having said that, there are some very, very basic kind of metrics which any email program should have. Like you track how many emails you're sending, how many people are opening your emails, how many people are clicking on your emails, how many people go and visit after clicking on your emails to the website. There are dropouts by click. When they reach the website, they sometimes do not actually end up reaching the site, so they are dropouts. Then people also unsubscribe, and then there are some people who click on your emails, go to the website, and then they buy. So that is also the kind of metrics which are there. So these are some very important metrics. But when I say welcome email program, the actual leading metric or the leading objective of the metric should be, when I track my welcome email program, I should look at how many people actually confirmed on my welcome email program. How many people said, yes, I am Natasha, I want to give my email address to you and I would happily receive your email, right? So, or how many people actually returned to my website from my welcome email program. So those are some of the leading objectives or metrics for welcome email program. Similarly, when you are sending out promotional email campaigns, you just don't track open clicks, etc. You track how many users they have actually gone ahead and redeemed the voucher code, right? Or how many people actually went and transacted because this campaign was like an exclusive offer we created for people. So different stages and different campaign plans would have different kind of leading metrics. So it should not be that every time you're just tracking open clicks and you're satisfied that, oh, I'm great. In fact, I also tell brands it is amazingly important to track your unsubscribes. So we are consulting a brand and they had 20,000 people leaving them every month, but they were happy that 50,000 new users are adding every month. So net they were getting 30,000 new users every month, right? And brands should obviously track net how much they get, because a lot of people move out of the list, a lot of people come inside. Over a period of 6 months, they realized that 100,000 plus users have left the brand. Then that was okay. They were okay with it, right? The cost of acquiring one user, if it is 10 rupees, then 100,000 users is going to cost them $1 million. So one is that important cost. Second is, out of these 100,000 users, there were 10,000 users who have transacted them and given them at least $50 of sale. In fact, they have given them 3 to 4,000 rupees of sale. Now, the guy who is giving me 4,000 rupees of business, what can I do to get them back? They never thought about it, because at everyday email campaign, it sounded like, okay, some people left, it's okay, it happens. It's like a regular day. But no, the guy who was giving you 4,000 rupee business, they just unsubscribed. You should know about it. In fact, brands, they do not pay attention to unsubscribes. And this is one very common mistake I see. This is one very common metric I see, that if you want to make sure that your email program grows, you should definitely keep an eye on who is leaving your email program or who is now moving out of. And there is a possibility that Natasha has moved out of my email program, but she could still be my customer. But the opportunity I could get by engaging with her earlier, now that would not happen. So the immediate instant offers that could actually ignite a purchase, that would not happen. And gradually, we also see that people who leave your email list, they also leave your business, right? So the transaction frequency reduces, and over a period of time, they are like absolutely churned users. So yeah, I would say these are some of the metrics.
That's very interesting. And again, I think you've kind of spoken about it, but if you want to pick up certain specific examples and tell us about the mistakes that you see brands making when it comes to email marketing. And I know you mentioned quite a few in the course of our conversation, but if you want to put it together in one answer.
So I think, so I would look at some more mistakes. In fact, there are a lot of mistakes we all end up making. So like I said, I'll reiterate some points and then I will add some new important things. As brands, we get overconfident about our email marketing and we let our subscribers churn out. So that is one thing which for brands, they have to pay attention. Like the unsubscribes are important. They could have been transacting. For example, Natasha has given me 10,000 rupee worth of business and she unsubscribed. So obviously legally, I cannot reach out to her on email, but I have her address. She has transacted with me. Now, what are the things I can do? So brands can maybe spend time that the guy or the girl who has churned from my email program, how can I get it back? And some brands have done it. Some brands actually ended up sending a cake to the users who have unsubscribed. The cost of the cake was not less than, not more than 500 bucks. A small cake sent out to a user saying that we miss you in our email list. Please subscribe back. Why? Because I know the capacity at which that user is transacting. Then there are certain brands who would go on to the length of creating an email which is coming from the CEO, telling the user that we have built this company with love, and in case there is anything which happened with you which let you take this action of unsubscribing, you would love to hear what was the feedback and we would love to have you back. What does it take for us to get you back? And the CEO communicating to that to a user, and these are B2C companies. I'm not talking about B2B companies, right? A B2C company like you, would you expect a Zomato CEO to writing to you? But if that happens, obviously it is not absolute one-to-one campaign, but even if that happens, you would feel warmth of the brand and you would go and subscribe back, right? So at what length people are ready to go? So number one is that do not just let go of your unsubscribes. They are hard-earned users. You have paid for them and you have earned them. Second important thing, which again is a mistake, is we let go of inactive subscribers very easily. So if you have stopped opening my email, then I see a lot of brands not taking hard work or not taking an effort to go and keep creating campaigns to engage that inactive user. In fact, people give up on their inactive user very easily. Why you are giving up on an inactive user? See, a lot of times, and this happens in B2B and B2C, right? So let's suppose you are reaching me out for doing this podcast or doing this video cast. I did not respond to your first email. You send me the second email. I did not respond. You send me the third email. Seeing your persistence and seeing that, wow, this has some value, I would reply, right? But you have to be innovative every time you send out a conversation. It cannot be, hey, circling back. Hey. So, I mean, the idea is whether it is B2B or B2C, never send a flat email to your user. Every time you read an email, there is an opportunity to make an impression. Forget about the click, forget about the transaction. So if your user sees that persistence, sees that innovation happening, they will reply. So my suggestion obviously is that one second mistake which brands make is they do a lot of, they leave attention to inactive users, thinking that out of 100,000 users or out of whatever list size I have, my 30% list is active and I'm very happy with that. I'm getting transactions and that is great. But what happened to the 70,000? You are not able to create great impact. So I think pay attention to that as long as possible. So that is the second mistake I would say people have, and the third people do. And third is never ever buy an email list. So I mean, I've reiterated this in the past. If you go and buy an email list, what happens? So let's suppose I go and I remember meeting a brand who said that, Tanish, can you do this 1 million users I have? And it was only 1 year in their, I mean, they just had 1 year in their stage of forming up. And in 1 year, they had 1 million users and their website did not have much traffic. And I was very, very shocked. How do you have 1 million users? They said, no, I've bought this CD from Nariman Point. It's a posh place in Mumbai. I said, amazing. There are 1 million people who have bought that CD. Imagine the people who are in that disc. They are going to be targeted by so many brands around. And those are not even real email addresses. Some of them could be spam trap or bad. I mean, I can't explain you what spam traps are here, but these are bad email addresses. They are like policing email addresses who is doing, they're sort of doing surveillance online that nobody sends out bad emails, right? And these are part of your discs which are being sold online. So I would say that it can do more harm to your domain. Like if your domain is, let's suppose peppercontent.com, you would never want to get into a trauma where you are being surveillanced by anti-spam body because you have sent out spam, right? So that it does more harm. And today the expectation is that I want to give the best customer experience to my user. And that cannot happen by spoiling your brand or spoiling the reputation which you have created. So there are so many bad impacts which buying an email list could have. That's why, and it is not easy to build an email list. So why people buy? Because it's not easy to build. But when they know that the negative impacts are so many, they would understand that it is better to go and create a better form on the website, better content on the site, so that more and more people can come and join my email list. So yeah, I would say some of these are the email mistakes, email marketing mistakes brands are doing.
So yeah, so I mean the previous point when you spoke about brands reaching out multiple times but having innovative messaging, I guess that's where innovative content also comes in, right? And it's almost like sales outreach emails, right? You want to not be saying the same thing again and again. You want to be adding value. You want to maybe give a free ebook, all those things, right? Like that B2B companies kind of do. So yeah. So now we spoke about mistakes. Now let's talk about some good, successful case studies and campaigns that you guys have worked on, and you'd like to share, some learnings from.
See, there are a lot of brands who are doing great email marketing nowadays, because I think there are marketers who now believe that email marketing can make a lot of ROI or can make a lot of impact. So, but I would give you some specific examples of brands who have done some amazing things. So there are good brands like you named Zomato. Zomato does amazing email campaigns. PhonePe does amazing email campaigns. Lenskart, Ease My Trip, Make My Trip. These are some brands who have done like some incredible campaigns. So recently I was talking to the head of CRM and communication of PhonePe, and she said that during lockdown, obviously they are a payments app or they're a fintech company. What kind of inter transactions are drying up, right? So drying down. So what can you do, or what kind of conversations will you do. So she said that her team, offline team, collected the locations wherever groceries are available. And during the lockdown, one thing which was very important is that, I mean, this information was not even available on Google back in the days, that which grocery store next to me is open, how do I reach out to them, right? So you have to multiple times search for the address and then call and then check. So these guys, they created a campaign which said stores available to service you near your locations, and they put together a very good list. All their users, they track their locations and which locations they order, etc. And then they figure out which stores near them are open, and that way they segmented the list and they sent out the email campaign. That, so usually when you send out an email campaign, it is open only for the first 24 hours. Like maximum people open it in the first 24 hours and then it dries down. This campaign, so Priya was telling me, Priya is the head of CRM there. She was telling me that my campaign was open for next 15 days. Like everyone sort of was referring to the email even after like 1 week or 2 weeks, because it was so useful for them that, I mean, imagine you're going to your mailbox and saying, hey, let me open that email because there's a store address there, or there's information about the store. So this was very useful campaign, I would say. Then recently,
I actually had Priya on the show also, and she mentioned it to us.
Wow.
This specific email campaign. I remember now. She talked about what they did during the pandemic. So yeah, just.
So yeah, so she has done some amazing work with their email program, and she understands email marketing. Like for some of the people who like really believe in that whole for the love of email thing. So and then I remember an award-winning campaign. It's a global award, I remember, which we got in the US for this campaign. So, and this is a very old campaign. This is like long time back. I think this was right at when Lenskart was formed. So Lenskart used to wear eyewear, but their contact lenses or their eyeglasses were not sold. I mean, people were just buying them for their regular glasses or fashion glasses and all, sunglasses and all, but people were not very serious to buy those kind of lenses or contact lenses or eyeglasses from Lenskart, and they had a good user base. So mutually, I mean, the marketing team we were working with Lenskart marketing team and all. So we created this campaign where we said in the email there was a GIF and it showed 4 steps. So right from when you order an eye or contact lens or an eyeglass to from Lenskart, what happens? So when you open the email, you can see the next 4 steps. So it shows the factory view of what is happening behind the scenes the moment you order from Lenskart your contact lenses. So the way they would do the checkup, or they would call an ophthalmologist, and the way they would do the packing, the way they handle the frames, how to select the frames. So everything, a good image, a good factory image. And then those are the steps. And then it reaches you. And then it says, reply to us. Reply to us if you think that this is good enough, what we are doing, or you would like to add any more steps. And usually, just so that you know, I am from the industry, so I know opens and clicks are okay, but nobody replies to an email campaign or a marketing email campaign, right? I'm sure if I ask you how many email campaigns you have replied to, maybe 1 or 2 or maybe none. This campaign got thousands of replies, in fact, testimonials. And this campaign was very helpful. And then obviously they graduated this campaign to other mediums also. And the response was phenomenal. Like I would say, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think it was some crazy 400-500% increase in the conversion of the eyeglasses and other things. So this was one amazing email campaign. And then we nominated this campaign for some award, and internationally it was recognized as an award-winning campaign. So, and Natasha, brands are doing a lot of things. Like I remember recently, some cosmetic brand or some kids care brand, they send out an email that if you buy something from us, we will plant a tree for you. And then they would show the tree they have planted, and they would also give the Google Maps location of that tree so that you can go and check that out. And it was amazing. I mean, whether they're doing it or not, I know that I'm not getting time to go and plant a tree, but some brand is doing on behalf of me. I would love that.
Yeah, nice. Very interesting. So we've talked about the evolution of email marketing. So we've talked about the past. We've talked about so many things that are happening now with the formats, with the content, with the technology, right? Now, what about the future? And this is my final question for you, Tanish. What is the future of email marketing looking like? And also from the content lens, where do you see this going?
So, so I think email marketing took a lot of time to get to a place. I mean, we were just sending out plain email text, and then images, and then it took a lot of time to evolve to a place where we are in 2020, 21. And now the evolution is quite faster. So there is this place. I mean, I would say this is a heaven set, a place where marketers want to reach. They want to say, I want to send right content to the right user at the right time, right? You have heard this statement many times. People are not able to do it till today. I mean, you would have heard this statement 10 years back, 5 years back, 2 years back. Everyone wants to say, I want to send the right content to my right user at the right time. That's not happening. Email marketing is also running and gunning towards the same thing. So one of the evolution or one of the innovation which is happening now and going forward, we'll see in email marketing is very heavy use of AI. So in fact, we have built certain things through which so Netcore obviously has, I'm not doing this promotional plugin here, Natasha, but Netcore has invested a lot in AI. And today we have optimization ways where I can send an email campaign to Natasha bases her patterns of opening the emails in the past. And my effort is through AI, I send you an email campaign when you are on the mailbox. So when you are on the mailbox, you would see the first 2 or 3 emails. There are higher chances that you would open them. But if I go below the first 2, 3 emails, there are chances you might ignore me. Right. So that is something called as send time optimization. Right. So there are ways we are, and inboxing is getting tougher and tougher. Like I said, there are people who buy email lists and then they want to send out spam, but it does not goes to inbox, it goes to junk folder. So the future of email marketing is that our jobs are getting tougher as ESPs, we are email service providers. Our job is to put brands like these brands, B2C brands, their emails in inboxes. So that inboxing is getting tougher because everyone like Yahoo, Google, nobody wants to give way to spam in inbox. Like no one wants to receive emails which are not right emails, right? So the inboxing is going to get tougher and tougher. So that is one important innovation. AI is going to help do a lot of things. Like I gave you an example of send time optimization. There would be content optimization. So today there are predictive segments available where I can say, hey, I want to do this email campaign. Which segment should I send my email campaign to? So the AI would read the content and then AI would say that I think you should send not to 1 million people, but this 100,000 people, and your ROI would be 5x. So it will predict the segment which will have very high probability of engaging and buying from your content. So that is what AI is sort of leading to. The third thing, like I gave you an example of this brand who said, if you buy from us, we are planting a tree, and they are also giving a proof, right? They're giving you a Google Maps link. That's an amazing campaign. I think it's all about now building experience. So brands today, they are moving from whatever I want to send, I'll send, versus no, I want to create an experience for my user. When they see my email campaign, they should love it. And hence they should look forward to my next email campaign. And if I fail on that attempt even once, then I have failed to create the story I want to with my user, or the bond I want to create with my user I want to. So I think the innovations are going to help brands create great customer experience. There is AMP which has come. AMP is not very, I mean, it has not exceed. I mean, I was expecting that a lot of people would jump onto AMP and they will start doing. But AMP today has some tech rules or some HTML you will have to create, and then Google has a way to approve it whether this campaign will be AMP enabled or not AMP enabled, and things like that. So I would see that interactivity in emails would increase, the relevance would increase. So let's suppose if you, and this has happened in the past, but I'm saying this you will see as a trend a lot more. Like you are getting an email from a restaurant, You're opening the email in the morning, you see a breakfast menu. The same email you open in the evening, you'll see a dinner menu in the same email, right? This has happened in the past, but you are not seeing a lot of brands doing it. You see only exceptional brands doing it. So this adoption of making sure that we are relevant, making sure that we are sending the right content, making sure that we are trying to build a experience, making sure that whatever tech we use, right? Consumer doesn't care whether you use AI or not. But I want to make sure that when the user sees my email, they look at the great design, they also look at the relevant content, and they also look at building conversation or empathy with the user. All of that will become the focus going forward. And these are some of the innovations I see happening. The expectation is that brands can deliver customer experience at scale. So there is hyper personalization and segment of one. So when I say segment of one, if Natasha is receiving an email, it should be different from Tanishq receiving an email. It should be different. So you become like a segment, but your segment is not like 100 users or 100,000 users. Each user is a segment. And when I say hyper personalization, it is exactly like you are thinking of creating campaigns, but they will be relevant to each user in their location, in their habits, in their way they shop with you, and things like that. And in case there are more users like Natasha, then it is okay to even send them the same kind of content. But the future is that how AI can help, or how any of these technologies, whether it is AMP, BIMI, or whether it is AI, or whether it is predictive segments and things like that, how they can create hyper personalization and segment of one. And all of this ultimately will lead to what? A great customer experience. And the customer would want to receive more of your emails. They want to engage and interact with you. So that's like what the future of email marketing.
Amazing. I think a few years back, we used to hear, email marketing is dead and nobody is going to be looking at emails, and how that has completely changed now. And I think how that innovation is constantly happening. I don't think any brand can ignore email as a channel. And I know that a few years back that used to happen. People were like, who's reading emails? No one wants to read emails. And even though our inboxes are so flooded, still email people who are doing emails well, they are seeing they are seeing a certain loyalty being built. And I think it is also such content has become such an important part of this entire journey of email marketing. It's very exciting as a content marketer to be doing, going beyond your transactional stuff and innovating constantly using different formats. So on that note, Tanishq, fantastic masterclass from you. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time again. And I constantly chasing you. I'm glad it has paid off. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this episode coming out. I think a lot of learnings for a lot of marketers in here.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you for having me. It was an amazing conversation, and I look forward to having such more conversations with you. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thanks, Tanishq.